Okay, so welcome to another Hearthside chat. I'm Jacqueline, and I'm going to be speaking this evening with Klaudia van Gool. Before we do that, I just want to take a moment to bring our hearts and minds together with a bit of gratitude. So today I'm incredibly grateful for the young rabbits that have been gracing my gardens and just really enjoying seeing them. You know, they pop out from underneath little structures in the garden and then they'll nibble around a bit and hop back underneath again. So I'm just still enjoying that sense of spring that they bring into my garden, into my life. And yeah, Claudia, would you like to share a bit of gratitude?
Thank you. Yeah, mine is also for the babies, but for me, it's the baby plants. So I've been tending to little seedlings and potting them up. Just that prospect of yeah, having beautiful big flowers in the garden in a month or so time. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, tending to nature.
Mm.
So yeah, so welcome, and this evening we have Claudia van Gool here, as I said. I don't know Claudia very well, so I'm quite excited to be having this chat with you this evening. Our paths have crossed at many camps, but somehow we don't seem to have had a lot of time to sit and yarn together. So here's a good chance to do that. What I do know about you is you've been very involved with different camps over the years, going back to the days of the Art of Mentoring, and then into nature culture, into the Eight Shields movement as it's woven its different threads within the UK. And I know you've held many roles within those different iterations of the camp. So yeah, I'm really interested to find out more about you and about your involvement with the work, Claudia. So yeah, would you like to start off by introducing yourself a bit, maybe speak about, what your interest is in this realm of work?
Yeah. So I'm actually Dutch, hence the name Klaudia Babel. But I came to the UK 38 years ago, and immediately moved to Cornwall. And so I've been living in a beautiful place um, for a long time. And there's a real sort of there's always been a drive in me to look after the planet, to do something environmental. So I ended up actually, after an environmental degree, studying permaculture. Once my kids were big enough that I could do that sort of thing. And it's through permaculture and becoming a teacher and becoming a tutor that I heard about this thing, the art of mentoring. Um, and so I first went along in 2011, so that's 14 years ago, went up to Scotland. Um, and I didn't really know very much about it, but I was intrigued by the title, The Art of Mentoring. And because I was a diploma tutor and realizing the importance of uh, also, yeah, supporting people in their journey, it's almost like coaching, mentoring. That's why I went to learn a bit more about mentoring. And it was just indescribably so much more than that. The whole experience of turning up and finding myself in this temporary village with so much going on, but particularly, yeah, the um, mentoring, but coupled with nature connection. So finding all these ways that we were encouraged and led into, gently guided into just actually paying much more attention, becoming much more part of the the non-human. That's what we
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think that was one of the things that struck me most as well about the Art of Mentoring's work, was really that sense of, who's mentoring and who's mentoring who. And it
mm,
was very subtly done, who's this whole thing, directions. And oh, we've got lots of people joining us this evening. We're quite busy. Welcome, welcome to everybody. Yeah, so that sense of, it was very subtly done and it wasn't really
mm,
clear who exactly was holding, who was in
mm.
charge, if you like, and who was a participant. And I love that. And the way the teachings sort of just emerged out of that almost organically,
Yeah.
very subtly. Mm.
And as for me, also the motivation, being a permaculture person, there's a strong, so permaculture is about permanent culture as much as anything else. So how do we do that? How do we um, repair some of the ways that are not really working so well in our modern society? And these camps are really so much about that. So for me, it addresses the permanent culture part of having the tools and having the ways and modeling the culture and the village atmosphere that people can viscerally experience what that can be like.
And so you've been involved with so many camps over the years. What have you witnessed in that? Or what have you witnessed in terms of the way that these camps affect people when they come along, say for the first time?
Yeah, well, it's quite it's an unusual place to be in some ways. In other ways, it's just like, oh, it's just another camp where you go and hang out with a load of people and do some stuff. But it's so much more than that because of what sits behind it, the whole theory of the eight shields that feeds into the structure of how we hold this camp. It creates as an atmosphere that you can't quite put your finger on. So there's a mystery about when you turn up at this camp, and there's something like what you wonder what's going on here that makes it feel in the way that it does. So I really love that about it. And so seeing people come into that for the first time, and especially children, because they're so much more open to it. They're so relaxed into it, and just seeing how kids can be, and also with each other, how people just almost immediately become so much more relaxed and easy with each other. That's always really striking.
Hi everyone, so welcome back to Hearthside Chat. We're here for the second half of our chat with Klaudia van Gool. We had a few technical issues, so we're back now, and we were just beginning to discuss what it's like for people when they come to the camp, and the difference it makes to them coming along to one of these nature culture connection camps or art of mentoring camps. So the story I was wanting to share is one about when the teenagers come along, and how they I really had this sense of them being dragged there by their parents, certainly with some of them anyway. You could see they weren't excited about being in nature for a week and away from their devices and away from their mates and whatever else it was that they wanted to be doing that week. And the whole idea of having to leave their phones behind or turn them off or whatever it was just like the worst thing that could happen to them. And then of course the teens all went off to their own camp on about day 2 or something. And by the end of the week, they came back and they were just like full of joy and full of energy and full of excitement and inspiration. And they'd all discovered, new things about themselves. They had kind of mud on their face and twigs in their hair. And, they were just so lit up by the experience. And that transformation was just really, really noticeable to me.
Definitely. And then the impact that has on the adults, and just going, oh my God, this is actually possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And of course, they came away with good skills as well. They were learning to make fires, they were learning how to build shelters. I think they caught a rabbit and, skinned it and cooked it over the fire. And so things I think they never dreamed they'd be doing. So, yeah. So I know for you, you're holding the role of Hearth North this year, which sounds very mysterious. You want to say a little bit more about what that is?
It probably will be quite mysterious. So the idea of the North, it's a bit like the team manager in some ways, in that I look after the people that look after the hearth. And so with a bit of luck, ideally, my role means that I won't need to do very much, and that it's fairly invisible. So it shouldn't be very, very public role. But yeah, meanwhile, making sure that it all takes over nicely and everything happens in the way that it should. So yeah, the North. So the hearth is at the center of the village, and at the center of this camp.
Yeah.
And so it's the place where the main fire is, and it's lit in the morning, and it's tended out in the evening after people go to bed. But it's also the place where we gather. It'll be relatively close to where we eat this time, so be in a good position so people can gather in the breaks in between the other activities and programs that are happening. And so it's also the place where we all gather together in the mornings just to bring the whole village together and to find out what's going on in the day and to make sure that everyone's okay and that we can energize people a little bit and check them out, and if anyone needs anything, that sort of checking out. So it's a real it's the home, it's the center home where everyone can settle back in and then go back out from.
Yeah. Yeah, and I kind of remember that we sort of start the day there, don't we? But then we also end the day there, you know, with stories around the fire and singing lullabies to the little ones. I really love that as they drift off to bed. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous moment. Yeah, and it's very much, you know, it's a place that is welcome to families, and so it's trying to find ways of including everyone and the smallest kids too, but also to support the parents by going, okay, you little ones, it's time for you to leave now, so that the parents don't have to try and work with the resistance of the kids that want to be around where it's all happening. Everyone goes. So it's that whole how can we best support the parents to support the kids?
Yeah, creating those structures and rhythms. Yeah. And the hearth also, you know, I'm imagining that for people who aren't involved with, because adults and teens will be signing up for guilds, there'll be somewhere for the foxes. So I'm imagining that parents and sort of babes in arms, as it were, and others, maybe elders, might find the hearth as a place where they can be and sit if they're not involved in any of those other activities.
Yeah, exactly. It is again that home, so it is the place to be when there's not something else structured going on for you, and for the children or the parents with the smallest children. We will have they'll be around the hearth, and they'll have their own space also to be quieter in, and toys and that sort of thing there as well. But so yes, and anyone who's not wanting to be in a program, or for example, we had there's a whole team of people that looks after the food, the kitchen guild, and so last time we had a whole afternoon with them around the hearth, making a little mini program with them as well, so that everyone gets their good feel of the camp and gets a bit of their special time.
Yeah, so anyone who's part of the food guild then isn't going to necessarily miss out on the experience of the camp, because there's this other little bespoke thing that happens for them. Yeah, nice. And I know one of the other things you've been involved with over the years is grief tending as well.
Yeah,
And that always seems to be a really key part of the camps.
it is. There's an element of we were talking about the teenagers and seeing them have such fun, and then coming back from their camp, and coming back to the village and being received in a just a really welcoming way, and that can be a classic moment of, and I remember it, of I didn't have that. And it's being in the atmosphere that the whole village brings. There's a sense of feeling something that you haven't had, that we all have a birthright to be in a caring community, to be safe, and so to all of a sudden experience that, then it can bring up those places where we haven't had that, and where it just, our lives haven't gone quite in the way that everyone might like. And so there's usually feelings that come with that, and so what we do is have a space for those feelings, in whatever way that people want to work with that. But we hold a particular grief ceremony, a ceremonial space within which it's okay to just go, oh, okay, I'm just giving myself time to really feel that now. And yeah, we set up a space where that's easier
Yeah.
because it's well held, and so you can relax into feeling safe to feel the feelings a little bit. And there's many different formats that we've worked with over the years. I remember when we did it together. God knows how long ago was that? Yeah,
That was Falkland.
Portland. We
Yeah.
used the work of Joanna Macy, the work of
Yes.
Respect. Oh yes, that's right. And so that's been a format that's or practices from that have been used in the past, and we've used also the work of Sobonfu Some, and some of her practices and ceremonial ways to be able to just move grief
Yeah.
if it's needed. You know, it's not compulsory, but it's just so it's there for people that feel that they move
Yeah.
forward.
Yeah, there's something about that structure, isn't there, of the ceremonial space that does allow us to really sort of lean into the grief and feel safe and held
Mm,
by it. You know, when there is structure offered, then it doesn't feel quite so, I don't know, scary to let it all come out because we know we're not just going to get lost in our grief. You know, we're held
absolutely.
within that
Yeah,
grief.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I know for myself, you know, there's been some years where there's been a sense of loss of, you know, I didn't have this. I wished I'd had this. Last year I was bringing grief for the loss of my stepfather who passed away the month
Mm,
before, you know, so we can bring all sorts of things. And then, of course, there's so much grief around what's happening to the planet, to the world, to the species, you know, so all and any of it can be brought along. Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, So for you, you know, what is it? You know, are there any ways in which Eight Shields shows up in your life or in the work that you offer? Or
Um, in some ways, it has become my life.
mm,
There are just ways of being and little practices that are part of yeah, some of the nature connection practices that are just become routines, um, and it just becomes a way of being. So both my partner and I, David, who's going to be running the village building, um, it just becomes that sort of seeing something happen around you, paying attention in a certain way, always when out and about, and then having ways to catch the stories of for each other or to ask the questions so that even more can be gained from those experiences.
mm,
That's part of it. So gratitude, that we started this call with sharing some gratitude, is such a good way of just having a moment to just really settle. I was like, oh, okay, right, let's just begin the day. Let's begin this
mm,
meeting in this way, so we can just stop and fall into that place in our hearts.
mm,
And it's just such a good grounder, but also such a good connector. So
mm,
that's a practice that I've taken. I committed many years ago to bringing that to the beginning of meetings whenever
mm.
I could. Um, so that's become a real thing, yeah, in
Yeah,
most meetings I'm part of. And I mentioned at the beginning being a permaculture teacher, so it's part of the beginning of each day on a permaculture course, for example.
yeah,
And then I bring some of the practices, these nature connection and sensory awareness um, tools, also into the permaculture course, so that people have begin to use their body as an observation tool and
mhm,
actually becoming more embodied also, and not be so just in the left brain, um, and also how to set up groups so that again people feel safe, and there's there's um, guidelines agreed so everyone knows how
mm,
it all works, so they can relax.
yeah,
So it's yeah, those sorts of things. I've just run not just me, but with
mhm,
a team, a 3 day fire quest camp.
mhm,
And so it's a 3 day camp village
yeah,
from which people go out and do an overnight tending the fire
yeah,
as a fire quest. And that whole village, that whole 3 day camp is based on the whole same structure and tools as we're using here.
Right.
And it just means that people, literally from the moment they arrive, they can begin to relax and drop all the stuff that we're worrying about, or the stress from driving, and just really land
Yeah.
as softly as they can, and
Mm.
feel really relaxed and safe.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's all about. There's so much going on these days about much more awareness about how our nervous system works, how much anxiety there is in the world, how many people carry traumas of whatever type. People are much more literate about that
Yeah.
nowadays, and I think what this camp does so well is to really bring that nervous system from the fight and flight down to the rest and digest, to the ease, to the parasympathetic, to the state of
Yeah.
being, that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I think it does help people to drop in more deeply as well, and much more quickly
Mm.
fall into that rhythm of the camp and the connected space. And yeah, I know for myself, when I was offering the guild last year, I felt the people who were taking part were going much more deeply with the work than they do usually when
Mm.
when I offer my work, but outside of the context of the camp. There's something about the context that's really magical and special, the container that gets created. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, on your own, you can't build a whole village around
No,
your activity.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 that's right. And it's embedded within a bigger nature experience, isn't it? So,
Mm.
mm. So is there anything in particular that you would say you were looking forward to about the camp based on your previous
Um,
experiences?
it is so interesting. The picture that was chosen by, I don't know, probably Peter, to announce this call is me sitting by the fire at the hearth,
Hmm.
and that's the only image that I get. It's like, oh, I'll be around the fire again. Um, but yeah, it's not just a fire. It's the whole hearth space that
Hmm.
has that fire at its center. But that fire brings so much to it. So I'm just, I can't really put my finger on it, but it's the feeling. I'm
Mm.
so looking forward to being back again in that feeling around that space, with that fire in the middle, and the village coming and going uh,
Hmm.
to it, and we usually camp on the edge of it so that we're close to where I need to be,
Yeah,
particularly. Um, so yeah, it's that, and the ease, being back again in a village where it's easy, where
yeah,
people are just friendly, and there's not having to look over your shoulder or worry about anything too much. And if there's anything that needs sorting out, then we'll sort it out. And
mm, mm,
um, yeah, so that, and then um, there's quite a high ratio of people that work within the team
hmm,
compared with people that come to be participants, if you like. Um,
hmm,
and we need that to be able to make it work so smoothly.
mm,
Um, so there is an element of looking forward to working within the teams and the different teams that
yeah,
happen there. So be part of my Hearth team and work more closely with them, and then I'll be linking in with the organising team, and I'll be cross-referencing with some of the guilds, and yeah, it's a good group of people that come and want to be part of holding space like that, and so it's good
yeah,
to be there. It's nice to work with good people,
yeah,
basically.
yeah, yeah. It is. It's a big team, isn't it? Actually, it's
Mm,
a big crew.
yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, and it is a big crew, and yet it does work very smoothly, which is also um, not always the case. Sometimes the bigger
no,
the team, the more complex and the more tricky it can be. But that's not my experience here. Somehow it seems to work in a beautiful rhythm and dance.
yeah, and that's all testament to the fact of that it's structured in that way that is totally grounded within eight shields,
Mm,
and the way that we organize, which is
mm,
part of how it works. And people that come will find out more about that
mm.
when they see how that goes.
Yeah,
Um, but that's why it works so well. and that's part of what I love about it.
Yeah.
There's a synchronicity that starts to happen that is just a really beautiful
Mm.
thing, and there's something about, uh, in some ways, it's a big ceremony. We open it in a beautiful ceremonial way.
Yeah.
We close it, and so in a way, we are in that camp for a
Hmm.
whole week within ceremony, and that in itself creates a special, yeah, way of relating,
Yeah.
and so synchronicities happen more easily. So I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like a little a clockwork happening. So you think this thought, and then you look over there, and there it is. It
There it
happened.
is happening. Yes, the thing you need, or the thing you, yeah, were
Yeah,
hoping for. Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And there's also for me something very, yeah, it's a very equal environment, isn't it? There's nothing,
Mm,
we all sort of drop in. We're all there because we love nature. We want to be in nature. We want to feel connected with nature and with one another. And so something about that that very quickly creates some strong ropes, and there's no hierarchy in my experience there, and that's quite unusual. We don't often find
mm,
that in the world these days. So yeah, you can spend a whole week with a group of people and not have any idea whether they're a highly paid brain surgeon or, empty your bins or, and all the
yeah.
things in between that, and it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. We're connected by our love of connection and our love of nature.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. And that greater purpose that by doing this, we're
Mm.
actually creating the future that we want to see.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah.
and there's only one way of doing it, and that's doing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Mm. Well, thank you, Claudia. It's been really lovely to chat with you this evening, and
Mm,
I look forward to seeing you at the camp again.
yeah.
So I'm just going to close with, yeah, gratitude for our time together and gratitude for the memories of the camps that we've been together in the past. And yeah, I'm very much looking forward to this year's camp.
Mm, okay.
Thank you.
I'll see you there.
See you there.